Rise and shine. 6 a.m. and your hand can't make it to the alarm clock before the voices in your head start telling you that it's too early, too dark, and too cold to get out of bed. Aching muscles lie still in rebellion, pretending not to hear your brain commanding them to move. A legion of voices are shouting their unanimous permission for you to hit the snooze button and go back to dreamland. But you didn't ask their opinion. The voice you've chosen to listen to is one of defiance. A voice that says there was a reason you set that alarm in the first place. So sit up, put your feet on the floor, and don't look back, because we've got work to do. Welcome to the grind. For what is each day but a series of conflicts between the right way and the easy way? 10,000 streams fan out like a river delta before you, each one promising the path of least resistance. Thing is, you're headed upstream. And when you make that choice, when you decide to turn your back on what's comfortable and safe and what some would call common sense, well, that's day one. From there, it only gets tougher. So just make sure this is something you want, because the easy way out will always be there, ready to wash you away. All you have to do is pick up your feet. But you aren't going to, are you? With each step comes the decision to take another. You're on your way now, but this is no time to dwell on how far you've come. You're in a fight against an opponent you can't see, but oh, you can feel him on your heels, can't you? Feel him breathing down your neck. You know what that is? That's you. Your fears, your doubts, and insecurities all lined up like a firing squad, ready to shoot you out of the sky. But don't lose heart. While they're not easily defeated, they are far from invincible. Remember, this is the grind, the battle royale between you and your mind, your body, and the devil on your shoulder who's telling you that this is just a game. This is just a waste of time. Your opponents are stronger than you.
Be the kind of trader who sees the big picture. The world is changing around you. Global threats push gold, the safe haven asset, to higher prices each and every day. Now's your chance to start trading gold. Just go to capex.com and register to get up to a $5,000 bonus on your first deposit. Simply use GOLD5000 as a promo code and you're good to go. Capex.com proudly welcomes you to the next level trading experience. Register now and start taking full advantage of the new gold rush. Terms and conditions apply. Exposure to gold obtained via contracts for difference, which are leveraged products and incur a high level of risk. Capex.com is operated by JME Financial Services, Pty Ltd, an authorized financial services provider.
Look, I'm exhausted. Had it all figured out and I lost it. They say that's the cost, but it just feels like a lot. Stop, are you going or not? I miss certainty. Miss the 9 to 5s, knowing exactly where I need to be and why I'm not built for this. Progress moves in slow motion. They're out making money and getting promotions, saying all the right things, pulling all the right levers, while I sit here, write my future self love letters. Who's winning? Is this the end or beginning? 'Cause I'm starting to feel like reality's slipping, and bank accounts, they aren't very forgiving, and life on edge feels like falling, not living. If effort brings victory, what am I missing? Nothing good comes easy. When we have to, we push through, not knowing completely. You're here because you're made for this next level, taking these places that most people won't. Start embracing it. Who cares what they do? They're not you. You'll go through more now than you think you're supposed to, but that shows you can cope with the highs and the lows, because you rose to be more. Could have run away, could have avoided the thorns, could have been comfortable. Blood, sweat, and tears, they're expendable. No more pretending, man, build something memorable. Don't drink from their cup or by stories they tell, because when all their time's up, you'll have dug your own well. You did it. Use lifelines, you're topped off for a lifetime, so drop all those one-liners. We'll get them next time. No, this time is your time, and whatever you decide will end up being real life. No stop signs, just storylines. This whole thing is a misunderstanding, a miscalculation. Jumped and missed the landing. I'm mystified. I can waste so much time. These ovations are strictly imagination, not standing. So much for planning. Guess fate left without me. Those failure statistics, yeah, they'll be about me. Was overly optimistic. Forgot the logistics. Guess we all learn sometime, don't we? Good is not good enough. No, how long do I stay down before I let go? I buried my pride and took it inside, but never enough. It takes a toll, it gets old getting told you've got miles of road.
Don't have enough money? Is that the thing? Or is the thing that's stopping you, you?
Excuses sound best to the person that's making them up. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Get off the pity potty. Telling everybody your sad and sob stories, trying to get people to show up to your pity potties and your pity parades. If you ever see me in a Rolls Royce, a 6 or 7 star hotel, living my life to the fullest, don't get jealous of me, because I worked my ass off to get it. Nobody handed me nothing. Wake your ass up. Awaken the beast inside. It's game on. It's go season. It's time for you to take advantage of the access and the resources that you have in your country and your community. You got a problem with your life. You got a problem with your environment. Do something about it. If you want it, go get it.
Recognize the excuses are not valid. They're conjured up, they're fabricated, they're lies. And how do you stop the lies? You stop the lies with the truth. And the truth is, you have time. You have the skill, you have the knowledge and the support and the willpower and the discipline to get it done.
The fruit of everything good in life begins with a challenge. Everything is uphill that's worthwhile. And it's not going to come to you, and it's not going to fall in your lap, and it's not going to be something that, oh my God, it just was so simple. It's always going to be difficult.
If you want it, you gotta go get it.
This is your chance. This is your shot. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your place. This is your opportunity.
This is my time. This is my moment. Tomorrow. Ain't no such thing as tomorrow. We only got today. It's your dream. If you wanted to have it, get your butt up and make it happen. If you wanted to have it, rise and grind.
You still got work to do. Stay on that basketball court. Stay on that football field. It's grind season, homie.
Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Ted Turner. Success leaves clues, kids. I just named 5 of the greatest names in business in the last 150 years. And they all have one thing in common. They're ball busters. They're hard as nails. Where does that leave you? I still work 50, 60 hours a week. And I haven't had to work in 35 years. You're not willing to do anything. You're not willing to sacrifice anything to be a high-performance person.
I don't want to be like that.
No, most people don't.
I want to be liked.
Yeah, well, see, you want to fit in. I'm the only speaker that you're ever going to hear that really, with all his heart, doesn't give a shit. If I leave here you liking me, I did something wrong.
The champ is here! 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 The champ. Good morning and welcome to Bull Market Talk Show. This is your host Rian Hobson, and we are doing today the Federal Open Market Committee, the minutes that was released yesterday, and it was actually some damning forecast that Federal Reserve or the FOMC, I would say, actually put forward for the U.S. economy ahead.
And you can see also today on the stocks, the global stock market is actually tanking as we speak now. It actually started to tumble. And yesterday, actually, it started already at around 8 o'clock when the FOMC was released. But it took me some time to understand actually what was the statement about. It was a 13-page policy statement, or the minutes of the policy statement that was released yesterday. And after now considerable time reading it over and over, trying to find clues of what will be the next meeting's agenda, because we all know now that the Federal Reserve is preparing for aggressive stimulus that will come out, but it did not highlight much on what will be the next policy statement about, and how will he actually counter, or how will he actually counter the current recession that is in the United States facing extremely bleak picture. What the Federal Reserve was actually highlighting yesterday, and saying that things are not looking good. Also started to tweak the language of the FOMC by actually putting out statements like, normally they will say they are data dependent, but he is actually stating now outcome-based dependent, so which means he needs to wait for the data to come in and see what is the outcome of his policies, and then afterwards he can actually state, okay, does it work or doesn't work. But it is actually more of an outcome-based policy. That is what he actually was highlighting also yesterday. And also, the words that actually struck me the most yesterday was when he actually said that the economic recovery of the United States is actually based on the pandemic. There needs to be control on the pandemic for the economy to recover. If there's no control over the pandemic, then surely things will not actually recover in the United States. And that is actually what he was saying. And that what actually shocked me yesterday out of the statement, that the U.S. economy depends on the control of the virus. If there's nothing being done on the virus, then I don't know what will be the outcome. So that's why he stated in his policy that they are outcome based, because they are not sure. This is a very uncertain time for the U.S. economy, and obviously they are now. I can't say that they are on uncertain territory. I can't say that. Because one, the US did experience something like this before, which was under President Harding. That was now in the 1920s, the forgotten depression. That was actually highlighted there, but it was not in the statement. But they do have actually evidence of what to do when you are facing this pandemic. But as things stand, due to latest policies and latest economics of stimulating the economy, which was not done in the 1920s, and it worked actually quite effectively that time. So the dynamics of the Federal Reserve itself changed, and that is actually make things but difficult. So, but at the end, the Federal Reserve is actually in a hard place with Donald Trump, because as what the Federal Reserve was saying, things will not be so good as what they initially thought. And that is what actually tanked the stock market now. Also, the dollar reversed. Also, the gold price started to go down. That is what I expected based on the statement. And I will go through the statements on things that I highlighted out of the statement that it was important. I will just take a short break, and then I'll be back with you with some more information regarding the policy statement.
The champ is here! 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 The champ.
In 2010, a 1-ounce gold Kruger Rand cost around 8,000 Rand. Today, in 2020, that same 1-ounce gold Kruger Rand costs over 24,500 Rand. That's a 300% increase in price in 10 years. Is it worthwhile for you to invest in gold? It could be. Find out more information. Get educated. Visit us at thinkgold.co.za for more information or to buy your gold.
Do you remember them days where you thought it was absolutely unbearable and you thought you wasn't going to endure that one? Do you know that your survival rate for every last one of them bad days is 100%? Your track record for surviving bad days is 100%. That's a fact. Your track record, you batting 1,000. You'd have survived every funky day you ever had. You survived every hater. You survived all the evictions. You survived the firings. You survived all the tell you no, we ain't hiring. You survived all the trouble you ever been in. Your survival rate is 100%. 100%.
I'm going to get destroyed. But if I can still be standing on my feet, then life isn't so bad.
Somewhere along the line, you changed. You stopped being you. You let people stick a finger in your face and tell you you're no good. And when things got hard, you started looking for something to blame, like a big shadow.
You know what you are. What you're made of.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
The champ is here! 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 The champ is here!
Good morning and welcome to Bull Market Stock Show. This is your host Rian Opson, and we're doing the Federal Reserve minutes of yesterday, where the Federal Reserve, or the FOMC, actually painted a very bleak picture. I will give you the highlights of the statement, so I will not go through the whole entire 13-page FOMC minutes. So I will actually highlight things that were actually very important for us as traders and also to the U.S. economy, so that we can understand what the hell is going on there and what will be the forward guidance of the Federal Reserve if they actually didn't say much. But it needs to give you some clues of what will the Federal Reserve will do in the next policy meeting. All right. Now, what they actually said there in the statement is that the GDP dropped to historical levels between March and April, but rebounded in May and June, which we did saw it, that retail sales actually moved up. There was also jobs that were created. Now, on the labor part, they go on. The labor market improved in May and June, but it stopped. So then it's not that it stopped, that it actually slowed down. So basically, the momentum did not push forward. So there was actually a V-shaped recovery, and we need to look now at a more of a W-shaped recovery. Now, the jobs that were created for the United States was actually a drop in the ocean compared to the job losses that was incurred between March and April. So it actually only recovered slightly, and it was only a third of the job losses. So if you took on net, for example, the amount of jobs that were lost between March and April, and you put the job gains in of May and June, then if you look at the net story, then the job gains is only 1/3 of what have been lost, because the unemployment rate is still over 10%. It's still a heavy load upwards on the unemployment. Now, the job claims on net improved, but slowed and moved down in recent weeks. So, which means that the job game, the claims did slow down between May and June, which makes sense because there was jobs created, but then it started to slow. That is now in July. So there was actually, you can notice it, that it actually started to slow down. So the momentum was not the same as what is expected of a V-shaped recovery. Now, on inflation, now what I explained now is the current situation, what the data, what the Federal Reserve actually have in their hands currently. On inflation, personal consumption expenditure had slowed to 0.5. Now, it dropped actually in March and April. Then it recovered in May, obviously. In May and June. And now in July, it started to slow. So it's on 0.5. So it's not where it was in February. So it is still fairly below of what is expected of personal consumption expenditure. So it didn't reach the levels of February and January and March and also last year. So it didn't reach that levels as in yet. Now also, core PCE, which stands for personal consumption expenditure, which is a very, very important indicator when it comes to inflation. It's extremely important when it comes to inflation. Personal consumption expenditure. This actually part calculates actually how the Americans are actually spending. So it is a direct one of how the U.S. Or the citizens of the United States is actually spending. It's a different calculation when it comes to CPI, and I will actually explain the difference in it. Now, the core PCE is at 1%. Now, core means that it excludes food and energy in core. So it excludes that. Personal consumption expenditure, the normal one, include food and energy, which is at 0.5%. Now, core PCE is actually at 1%. That one excludes food and energy. Now, very importantly, CPI, Consumer Price Index, the inflation that what we know, all right, what is always been indicated all over the world, which stands for inflation, CPI, Consumer Price Index, actually moved up. It moved up by 0.6%. The same applies to core CPI, also moved up, and on year, it's actually at 1.2%. Now, that is where the difference comes in. CPI actually moved up quite strongly and significantly. I will not say to the level of what the Federal Reserve won, which is a symmetric 2%, but it went up. But it did not come directly from spending. So we need to look at where the hell did it come from? Because personal consumption expenditure slowed, but CPI went up. So, which means in a normal economy, you want the people to spend so that you will get inflation or CPI. That is a normal recovery or a very healthy economy. That is where you get the citizens are spending, and that is where you get inflation. Now, this is not the case in the United States because personal consumption expenditure slowed. So how the hell did they get to CPI to improve? That means only one thing, which I can say, it comes to with this whole lockdown, because there needed to be some constraints on basic goods. So which means the maybe avocados was not there. Oh, okay, that can't be. Which is actually, say for example, the bread to the stores took time to get there, and there was a bit of pressure on the bread price because due to the lockdown, the logistics was out. So a lot of basic goods did not get to the store as quickly as the people wanted to be. So obviously the retailer will ask more. So that put up the prices. So it's not a natural ferment where demand is high. It's more of a supply disruption. So the supply was disrupted, and that actually created inflation. It did not come from spending. So that is actually what I wanted to highlight. That is what I picked up in the statement. Also, very important when it comes to the spending of American citizens, which was also for me a bit of a surprise. Okay, but I can't say it's a bit of a surprise because things are not good across the world. But goods, like for example, baked beans, rice, stuff like that. I'm not saying that is what the US bought, but I'm just making an example of goods. Goods and lighter motor vehicles actually increased. Normally we know that the US citizens like your big cars, and that was not the case. Lighter vehicles actually went up. People bought more lighter vehicles, and the goods, like your everyday uses, like your bread, your rice, and those type of things, those things got bought, but your services went down. So the services, for example, hospitality, restaurants, those things actually went down. People did not buy on services. People bought goods, not services. And then on top of that, they bought actually lighter vehicles. So they did not actually went into services because your restaurants did not go up as much. Your hospitality and those type of things did not move as much. Also, personal income went down. Real personal income actually went down. Wages and income actually went up, but below February 2020 levels. Consumer sentiment went up, but slowed in July. So obviously, because if you look at the retail sales of the United States in May and June, it went sharply up to about 18%, which makes sense. So obviously, consumer sentiment that went up, but it started to slow in July and obviously in where we are now, which is August. So obviously, very importantly, the Federal Reserve stopped at July. They did not talk about August and onwards, because obviously that is what they were talking about. They were explaining the data that is in front of them. The consumer sentiment, we'll just go over that again. The consumer sentiment actually did improve in May and June, but slowed in July. The same applies to wages and income. It did went up, obviously, because the number of jobs increased, but below the February level. So it did not reach that. And also personal income also went down. So with that said, it makes all sense that personal consumption expenditure did slow down. And although CPI went up, so the people's money in the United States and the spending of it did go down. So it is not possible that you will get healthy inflation. So the only thing is where inflation could have come from is because of supply disruptions. And that's why the prices of goods and surely maybe services also went up, and that is what was picked up in the CPI number. And that is actually a concern for the Federal Reserve, because obviously you want an economy that spends, all right? It spends and then it creates inflation. That is signs of a healthy inflation and a healthy economy. But at current situation, or what the data suggests to me when I was reading that, is that the CPI number did increase, but it did not come from spending. It came from supply disruptions. Because obviously, if you take into account, the oil prices also dropped, but CPI still went up. So the only thing that I can think of is actually the disruption of actually the lockdown. The same applies in South Africa. There's certain things that are cheap, but then there's certain things that you actually just don't get in the store. Like, for example, my favorite, jam squash. I just don't get that. And that is actually a bit of for me, a bit of a bumper, but I can just expect the same for the U.S. People. Then obviously, if the jam squash actually get onto the vegetables side of the stores, and obviously the price will increase because obviously there was a supply disruption. So that is actually the problem. Also in South Africa, there is actually also an increase in the tobacco prices. Although it was banned now, but there is now currently an increase in the tobacco prices because of supply disruption. The farmers did not plant anymore because they were not sure when will the market open for them to supply cigarettes. So that is the problem. You have supply disruptions. It did not come from demand. It comes from supply disruptions. I just want to make more examples on that because the inflation part of the United States is extremely important so that we know if inflation did improve on a healthy economy or did it just come from supply disruptions. Because obviously inflation is a very important indicator for the Federal Reserve to lift up interest rates or to actually to decrease interest rates. I will just take a short break and then I'll be back with some more information regarding the Federal Reserve minutes, because this will actually bring down, I will not say collapse, but for now I would say bring down the U.S. economy and also can have significant impact on the dollar and also on the equity market. I will just take a short break and then I'll be back with you with some more.
The champ is here! 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 The champ.
Rise and shine. 6 a.m. and your hand can't make it to the alarm clock before the voices in your head start telling you that it's too early, too dark, and too cold to get out of bed. Aching muscles lie still in rebellion, pretending not to hear your brain commanding them to move. A legion of voices are shouting their unanimous permission for you to hit the snooze button and go back to dreamland. But you didn't ask their opinion. The voice you've chosen to listen to is one of defiance. A voice that says there was a reason you set that alarm in the first place. So sit up, put your feet on the floor, and don't look back, because we've got work to do. Welcome to the grind. For what is each day but a series of conflicts between the right way and the easy way? 10,000 streams fan out like a river delta before you, each one promising the path of least resistance. Thing is, you're headed upstream. And when you make that choice, when you decide to turn your back on what's comfortable and safe and what some would call common sense, well, that's day one. From there, it only gets tougher. So just make sure this is something you want, because the easy way out will always be there, ready to wash you away. All you have to do is pick up your feet. But you aren't going to, are you? With each step comes the decision to take another. You're on your way now, but this is no time to dwell on how far you've come. You're in a fight against an opponent you can't see, but oh, you can feel him on your heels, can't you? Feel him breathing down your neck. You know what that is? That's you. Your fears, your doubts, and insecurities all lined up like a firing squad, ready to shoot you out of the sky. But don't lose heart. While they're not easily defeated, they are far from invincible. Remember, this is the grind, the battle royale between you and your mind, your body, and the devil on your shoulder who's telling you that this is just a game. This is just a waste of time. Your opponents are stronger than you. Drown out the voice of uncertainty with the sound of your own heartbeat. Burn away your self-doubt with a fire lit beneath you. Remember what we're fighting for, and never forget that momentum is a cruel mistress. She can turn on a dime or the smallest mistake. She is ever searching for the weak place in your armor, that one tiny thing you forgot to prepare for. So as long as the devil is hiding the details, the question remains, is that all you got? Are you sure? And when the answer is yes, when you've done all you can to prepare yourself for battle, then it's time to go forth and boldly face your enemy, the enemy within. Only now you must take that fight into the open, into hostile territory. You're a lion in a field of lions, all hunting the same elusive prey with a desperate starvation that says victory is the only thing that can keep you alive. So believe that voice that says you can run a little faster and you can throw a little harder, and that for you, the laws of physics are merely a suggestion. Luck is the last dying wish of those who want to believe that winning can happen by accident. Sweat, on the other hand, is for those who know it's a choice. So decide now, because destiny waits for no man. And when your time comes and 1,000 different voices are trying to tell you you're not ready for it, listen instead to that lone voice of dissent. The one that says you are ready, you are prepared. It's all up to you now. So rise and shine.
The champ is here! 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 The champ is here!
Good morning and welcome to Bull Market Stock Show. This is your host Rian Hobson, and we're doing the FOMC minutes that was released yesterday, and it was a damning bleak picture actually that was actually painted by the FOMC, and it doesn't look good for the U.S. economy. And obviously, if we are like I'm in South Africa, and it will also affect us. It will affect everybody across the world. Sorry, that's why the FOMC statement is so important, because we're talking about the strongest economy in the world that is battling with the pandemic. Now, to go forward, as I explained now with the story of inflation, and then I will go over now to the housing and the business side of the United States. Now, housing, it was actually very straightforward. The housing, the startups actually went up, existing home sales also went up, and new home sales also went up. So all sides of the housing market actually improved, but obviously that came in with the aggressive stimulus from the Federal Reserve and also with low interest rates. So people took the opportunity now to buy some houses and also to what I can pick up, it actually houses across startups, existing home sales, and also new home sales improved. Also family units and single units also improved drastically because of the low interest rates and aggressive stimulus from the Federal Reserve. So that is actually a good sign, and that also helps the construction sector of the United States. So that is actually a slight of good news there. But will the momentum actually last? That is the big question. Now, on the business side, that is actually where the big thing come in, is actually the mining and drilling actually went down. Obviously, drilling consists more of your gas and your oil, and that went down because there is an oversupply of oil in the United States. And as you can see, also in the stock market today, that the oil prices actually started to go down because of these comments from the FOMC. Mining, on the other side, also slowed, obviously, because of the lockdown. Even in May and June, it slightly went up, but not much of significance. Also, the business outside mining and drilling also went down. That is now your manufacturing and obviously your service side. Now, there was an improvement in output when the lockdown restrictions actually were slightly a bit relaxed, but obviously you can only produce so much because people buy only so much. So obviously you have again the demand and supply side. So but businesses outside, that's what the Federal Reserve was actually highlighting, the business outside mining and drilling also did not much improve, and it started to slow down. Exports, it's still far below. So that is the big problem. Now, the big story of today is actually the outlook. The outlook, that is where the futures come in, the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones, the JSE, all the global stock markets, whether it's the CAC, the DAX, everywhere in the world, everybody is looking at the outlook of the United States. And that is where they actually put out some damning evidence ahead, and that can actually put down the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones, and also lift up the dollar. Now, you must always remember the US is actually a safe haven currency, so it moves in the opposite direction of its economy. You must never ever forget that. That is now fundamentals 101, that once you have bad news out of the United States, especially a damning story as what the Federal Reserve was highlighting yesterday, then you automatically know that the dollar will increase. Now, also, before I go on with the outlook of the U.S. economy, please remember that the whole thing that the Federal Reserve was also highlighting on and stressing about is the story of inflation, because it looks like inflation will go absolutely nowhere. So that is why the gold prices are actually going down. Now, I'm not saying that gold prices will be dead forever. There could be some relief for gold. That is now in February maybe, or if the Federal Reserve put out hints what they will do when they get to Jackson Hole in September. Now, the outlook of the U.S. economy goes as follows. Now, social distancing will start to decrease next year. That is what they project. So for now, people are still tense about this whole coronavirus. And the problem is the death rate in the United States is actually, it's still there, although it actually simmered away, but it is still there. And the infection rate is also very high. The second wave, as they were all talking about, I actually call it a resurgence of the coronavirus. So that also picked up now with all the Black Lives Matter protesting and the things and the economy that is actually slightly opening. So obviously you have a resurgence of the coronavirus. It's not that the virus goes away. It's just that obviously the virus is still there and it's spreading. But the death rate actually is fairly flat. That is what I see in the data. It's fairly flat, but the death rate is still there. But obviously, because if they report that someone died, then obviously people fear virus. So what the Federal Reserve was saying, social distancing will start next year, so which will come next year. If there is an improvement in the elections, and there's maybe some more news coming out that things are improving regarding the coronavirus pandemic. Now, the GDP will start to outstrip, please listen carefully, GDP will start to outstrip output growth. So now we still have that problem where there's output, but the growth rate is not so good. So which means there's more of an oversupply, for example, when it comes to oil and certain other products. So, but they say next year you will get the part where the GDP growth will outstrip actually growth. That is now next year, which will lead to unemployment. Sorry, which will lead to an improvement in employment, or unemployment will go down, and then inflation will start to go up. And that will only be at around 2021, 2020. But very importantly, what the Federal Reserve was using was that it depends when the pandemic gets under control. That is where you will start to see the economy improves. But for now, because it's still headlines on the news in America, which I can just think of, I'm not in America, but every time when you switch on the TV, I'm in South Africa, you just hear that the infection rate in the United States is increasing and increasing and increasing. So I can just imagine how much the U.S. citizens are getting bombarded with this news regarding the coronavirus pandemic. So they only said by 2021 and 2022, that is where you will see maybe an improved side of the GDP, which will lead to job gains and also inflation. But what I can pick up also is that the Federal Reserve was pointing out at some part of this FOMC statement a worst case scenario, which is a wave after wave after wave scenario of the U.S. economy. Now, of the pandemic. Now, if like now there's a second wave, there's a possibility that it might improve. It just will go on and on and on and on and on. Now, the second wave started in July, and that is where you started to see that people are not spending so much. That is what the Federal Reserve noted. You will see there is actually job claims. More people apply for job claims. Unemployment rates, which we will see maybe in the data surely next month, where we will maybe start to see that the data, the unemployment maybe move up, or there is not so much jobs that get created. And the biggest sector that gets affected by this is actually the service side of the United States. And the service side of the United States constitute of about 70% of GDP of the United States. And that is now your hospitality, your restaurants, your service side of the economy. And that is not actually functioning properly because people are still afraid of this pandemic. And people outside of the United States, people from South Africa, Australia, wherever that wants to visit actually the United States still can't move because there's still a lot of restrictions regarding the pandemic. So what they do say is that the service side of the economy will be the hardest hit, and it still is actually the hardest hit. Currently, since the second outbreak, businesses experiencing an extra unordinary uncertainty or high levels of uncertainty in recent months. So which means that it is very difficult to have a business because you have now a second wave that's coming. You must now know it is basically a stop-start economy. You, for example, you operate today, and then tomorrow one of your staff members get affected, and then you need to close down. One day of closing down your business is a lot. It's a lot. So it means that you are basically in a stop-start story. You're losing revenue. Then you still need to get people in to clean the place, blah, 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 blah. And then you can reopen again. And obviously you need to also send a message out to the public to say, no, we are open again for business. So it's a stop-start. There's not actually durability for businesses to open up freely, because if the corona virus hits your store again, then you need to close down again. So that is definitely not good for business. It hits the revenue, and still you need to pay your full rent at the end of the month, and you miss out on a few days because you need to clean up your place because of the alert of the virus inside your store or your business. Now, that leads also to a stop in reinvestment of entrepreneurs, because obviously you can't invest in a stop-start economy. Where the hell will your profits come from? So it just doesn't make sense for you to actually expand your business because tomorrow you might close down because there is a scare of corona in your area, or like what I noticed also yesterday, I think the guy from New York, the mayor of New York, he was actually putting some hard words through yesterday, but saying he will shut down restaurants again if this thing is not under control. So besides the virus getting to your store or business, the whole entire economy of New York can actually close down. And I'm just making an example of New York. What about other places of the United States where they can just have a hard lockdown again because they need to slow down the business? They need to slow down the virus. So that also impacts on the business, and that's why investors will not reinvest in the business or even expand the business, because they are in fear that things can go worse again. So what is the use that I put money in the business? That is also one hell of a problem. And also the other part, businesses doesn't take up new loans again to expand the business. And that is also a problem for the banks and also for the Federal Reserve. But the sad part of this is that small businesses suffer the most in the stop-start story or stop-start economy of the United States. I'm not saying just in the United States, but across the world, where I know in South Africa it's also a problem where a store actually get an alert of a person that have the virus, and then they just have to shut down the store because they need now to clean the place again, and then it starts to open. It's a terrible situation that is currently, and the business is actually losing revenue. And the biggest loser in this whole story is actually the small businesses. And that is actually where this worst case scenario is coming from. That is actually what is happening in the United States. If this virus is not under control, or it vanishes away, then this will be the reality of the United States. And there's no way in hell how you can see any improvement in the economy or GDP of employment figures. You might see an increase in unemployment and in wages and inflation if the virus is not under control. And that is what the Federal Reserve is pointing out of a worst case scenario. Although they didn't say that in the statement, but when I was reading it, I can understand what they want to say is that there is this possibility of the worst case scenario, which they see is that there's a stop-start economy where businesses need to close down. Entrepreneurs don't take loans to reinvest in the economy or actually use their profits, if they have any, to reinvest in the business by creating jobs and expand the business. And that is actually a worrying factor for the Federal Reserve currently. I will just take a short break and then I will come back with the worst case scenario of the United States and also some other analysis of the minutes of the FOMC.
The champ is here! 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 The champ is here!
Be the kind of trader who sees the big picture. The world is changing around you. Global threats push gold, the safe haven asset, to higher prices each and every day. Now's your chance to start trading gold. Just go to capex.com and register to get up to a $5,000 bonus on your first deposit. Simply use GOLD5000 as a promo code and you're good to go. Capex.com proudly welcomes you to the next level trading experience. Register now and start taking full advantage of the new gold rush. Terms and conditions apply. Exposure to gold obtained via contracts for difference, which are leveraged products and incur a high level of risk. Capex.com is operated by JME Financial Services, Pty Ltd, an authorized financial services provider.
Look, I'm exhausted. Had it all figured out and I lost it. They say that's the cost, but it just feels like a lot. Stop, are you going or not? I miss certainty. Miss the 9 to 5s, knowing exactly where I need to be and why I'm not built for this. Progress moves in slow motion. They're out making money and getting promotions, saying all the right things, pulling all the right levers while I sit here, write my future self love letters. Who's winning? Is this the end or beginning? 'Cause I'm starting to feel like reality's slipping, and bank accounts, they aren't very forgiving, and life on edge feels like falling, not living. If effort brings victory, what am I missing? Nothing good comes easy. When we have to, we push through, not knowing completely you're here because you're made for this next level, taking these places that most people won't. Start embracing it. Who cares what they do? They're not you. You'll go through more now than you think you're supposed to, but that shows you can cope with the highs and the lows because you rose to be more. Could've run away, could've avoided the thorns, could've been comfortable. Blood, sweat, and tears, they're expendable. No more pretending, man, build something memorable. Don't drink from their cup or by stories they tell, because when all their time's up, you'll have dug your own well. You did it. Use lifelines, you're topped off for a lifetime, so drop all those one-liners. We'll get them next time. No, this time is your time, and whatever you decide will end up being real life. No stop signs, just storylines. This whole thing is a misunderstanding, a miscalculation. Jumped and missed the landing. I'm mystified, I can waste so much time. These ovations are strictly imagination, not standing. So much for planning, guess fate left without me. Those failure statistics, yeah, they'll be about me. Was overly optimistic, forgot the logistics. Guess we all learn sometime, don't we? Good is not good enough. No, how long do I stay down before I let go? I buried my pride and took it inside, but never enough. It takes a toll, it gets old getting told you've got miles of road left to go. You're alone with this future unknown, just go home. Just go home, it's safe there. Yeah, I'll find some embrace there. Look, it's time to admit defeat. A humble retreat, check the box and complete to my core. Intrinsically, it's not for me, I can't do this. I knew this is how it would be. No fame, no fortune, no names on marquees. Just running in place every day on repeat. This is the world I wanna see, where everything's taken with no guarantees. No. Come on, man, pick your head up. Go back inside half a life's learning to get up. How can I make you see that you have everything you need and what you want to be is never out of reach? Fate deceives sometimes, but destiny's calling, so can't let the phone ring. You know there's no all-knowing. Go level up, no letdowns. Let the world in, push fear out. It's self-belief, it starts right now. When hell freezes, you lay down. Until then, it's your town, it's your story, it's your crown. Live in the clouds, feet on the ground. They stand still, you run around. Go mesmerize, or they socialize. There's dollar signs to be maximized. If you live it right, regret nothing. Loud applause, the sweetest sounding. This moment won't happen again and never becomes forever unless you choose to begin. So see greatness in each step and power and progress. Your future, yeah, that's limitless, it's infinite. Don't forget you want this.
The champ is here! 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 The champ.
Good morning and welcome back to Bull Market Stock Show. This is your host Rian Hobson, and we are still doing the FOMC minutes that actually shocked the world still, and that's why the stocks are actually going down. We will have surely a strong dollar and also gold that will go down, but I will actually go more into detail after I'm done with this. I'm nearly done with the analysis of the FOMC. Now, the Federal Reserve also paint the picture on the banks and government, which is also very important, very important institutions. Now, the banks on the other side, as I just explained, with the stop-start economy on businesses and also the suffering of small businesses. Now, the banks on this side will not like this because a stop-start economy means that the banks might tighten up. What I mean by that is the banks will stop borrowing money to their clients, because it's no use they borrow money to people that will not be able to pay it back, because the banks are making profit on interest rates and obviously the repayments of these loans. So in this regard, the banks will start to tighten up because there's absolutely no hope for the economy. So the banks might not supply credit to households anymore or to businesses anymore because of the stop-start economy. Because one, the households get affected because people can't work, or people that are working have to work short time, or they just can't work for a whole week because of the stop-start economy. So it means the people will earn less, the business will make less profit. It's a very vicious chain reaction, and this might actually cause the banks to not to shut down, but not to borrow money to the people, and that is where I call it they might tighten up. Also, on the other part, government support could dry up. Not saying much that the Federal Reserve will not buy bonds from the government, because there is this tool of the Federal Reserve where they still can buy U.S. treasuries, so that we might get a steeper yield curve. What I mean by that, a steeper yield curve normally means that inflation will go up because there's prospects of growth because of the fiscus spending of the government. So the Federal Reserve will buy these bonds so that the government can have money. The government push this money to the society in a form of infrastructure development and those type of things to create jobs, and that might lead to improvement in the job numbers, get spending done, inflation goes up, and that is actually prospects for the U.S. economy to grow. So that is the government can do, or the Federal Reserve still can do that, but I doubt that will be sufficient enough for the whole entire U.S. economy. So the money will become worthless, basically, because they just keep on printing money, buy up these government bonds. The government supply this money to the people, but this money will not be enough to carry the whole entire economy. So that's why I say the government support could dry up. and it will not be of significance for the US people. So that can also be a problem. I'm still doing the worst case scenario of this statement. Insolvency could be a reality because a lot of companies carried a lot of debt before the pandemic. So the companies did borrow before the pandemic, and there was already a massive alarm of indebtedness. And that's specifically what I know of is actually from the drilling and fracking people, which took up a lot of debt to drill the oil and gas, or the mining industry and the drilling industry. They took up a lot of debt, and they might cause insolvency to the banks because, I mean, they can't pay back, the oil prices are not improving, and obviously fracking is actually quite an expensive part where they need at least $50 a barrel to push oil out and to drive supply up. But if the problem persists, then you might get insolvency. So that is also a problem for the banks and the government of the United States. So the picture is a very, very bleak picture. The outlook for the US economy doesn't look good, and it looks like we might, as we saw now, a slight V-shaped recovery of the United States. I think now we can prepare that it will go down. The other problem is the USA, in South Africa now, we will get our summer period because we are in the southern hemisphere. In the United States or in Europe and obviously the whole entire north will go into a winter period again where there might be a stronger resurgence of the coronavirus, and that could cause the worst case scenario to be a reality. Now, for the last part of the show, what the hell will we do now with all this evidence in front of us? How will we trade and cash in? That is why you are listening, and that is what we want to hear. Because the outlook for the United States look extremely bleak, as I just pointed out now. Now, it is just not possible for inflation to go up. It is just not possible to get employment up because, very importantly, you need jobs for people to spend so that you can get inflation. That is the most important part. You need to get the economy going so that you can create jobs, so that people are spending, get inflation up, and so that interest rates later on can go up. But with the current pandemic, and which the Federal Reserve is putting it bluntly clear in this minutes, that the economy is dependent on the control of the pandemic. As long as this pandemic is still on the news and drilling on our heads, blah, 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 so many people are dying, so many people are getting infected, people will still live in fear. Unless the people decide to say, hey, look, protect this virus, we're going to still, we're going to go to work and all of those things, then we might get to the point where the economy improves. Now, as things stands now, because we need to look ahead for the future, it looks like we will see extremely bleak picture ahead. One, the Federal Reserve at Jackson Hole will come with aggression. I don't know how they did not put hints into the FOMC minutes to say, okay, they're going to buy more treasury bonds so that the government can supply more money for people to stay at home. They did not say that clearly, but they did say one of their tools is by buying up bonds, treasury bonds. So they might do that. Or what the Japanese is doing is where they call it the control of the yield curve, so that they can get a steeper yield curve by buying up government bonds. They might use that, but if you look at history of that from Japan, it did not work. The Bank of Japan is actually owing 40% of the government bonds. And still until this day, there's no inflation in Japan. So I don't think the Federal Reserve will resort to that immediately, but I think that is one of the ammo in their toolkit. I think they might use it somewhere if things are getting worse, and then they will just buy up government treasuries left, right, and center and try to drive up that yield curve if it gets to an inverted yield curve. Because those things, although in South Africa, the Reserve Bank did said that there is not conclusive evidence to say that you might get an improvement in the economy if you drive up the yield curve. But obviously, you can't also ignore it because those curves do tell a story. So, for the future ahead for the United States, the best thing there is to hold on to your dollars. This, for me, is a blessing in the sky because I am with the dollar. And I knew this is going to happen. I knew at some point it will happen where you will get a sharp decline in the U.S. economy because it's just not possible where the bloody virus is still around and people are still living in fear and you think, voila, there everything is going to, it doesn't work like that. Once you inject fear into people's minds, people will believe any piece of rubbish that is on the news. And that is what we can see. It's very strange in South Africa. Not one person that lived on the streets got this virus. Not one. So it means definitely the TV is the problem. And people believe every piece of rubbish that comes from the TV. So now that we know people believe that rubbish, that's why the economic data looks like this. That means that we will not get a recovery in the United States anytime soon. Because that is what the data suggests. That is what the Federal Reserve was saying for their outlook. So, strong dollar. Gold will definitely go down. Your equities, NASDAQ, Dow Jones, whatever equities you can see, that will definitely go down. You can put that out for this day. Dollar up. Gold down. The Dow, the NASDAQ, whatever equities you like will definitely go down. Silver also down. Oil price definitely down. We will see an extremely strong dollar because of that FOMC statement. It is not possible for them to get inflation up unless they do something of significance at Jackson Hole. But as things stands now, unless they release a statement today or tomorrow, but I don't know, will they actually pay attention to that statement unless the statement is of significance. But for now, strong dollar. Gold will go down. Equities will go down. NASDAQ, Dow Jones, it will go down. Especially when that U.S. stock market is opening, it will definitely sink because of this statement. Silver down. Oil prices down. Make sure that you cash in because the statement is saying things will not look good for the future of the United States. It will be a sad part because obviously elections is also around the corner. And obviously as things stand, Trump is still behind in the polls, but that was also the case in his last elections. But I know now with Donald Trump, that guy has lives like a cat. He just come out strong, firing, and I know he will definitely do. But as things stands, things are not looking good for the U.S. economy, and that is where I actually put it out that the dollar will be strong. That's it from my side for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show, and then I will see you guys tomorrow with some more news of the markets and with economies across the world. Bye-bye, and enjoy your day.
The champ is here! 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 The champ.
What's stopping you? Are you too tired? Didn't get enough sleep? Don't have enough energy? Don't have enough time? Is that what's stopping you right now? Don't have enough money? Is that the thing? Or is the thing that's stopping you, you?
Excuses sound best to the person that's making them up. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Get off the pity potty. Telling everybody your sad and sob stories, trying to get people to show up to your pity parties and your pity parades. If you ever see me in a Rolls Royce, a 6 or 7 star hotel, living my life to the fullest, don't get jealous of me, because I worked my ass off to get it. Nobody handed me nothing. Wake your ass up. Awaken the beast inside. It's game on. It's go season. It's time for you to take advantage of the access and the resources that you have in your country and your community. You got a problem with your life. You got a problem with your environment. Do something about it. If you want it, go get it.
Recognize the excuses are not valid. They're conjured up, they're fabricated, they're lies. And how do you stop the lies? You stop the lies with the truth. And the truth is, you have time. You have the skill, you have the knowledge and the support and the willpower and the discipline to get it done.
The fruit of everything good in life begins with a challenge. Everything is uphill that's worthwhile. And it's not going to come to you, and it's not going to fall in your lap, and it's not going to be something that, oh my God, it just was so simple. It's always going to be difficult.
If you want it, you gotta go get it.
This is your chance. This is your shot. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your place. This is your opportunity.
This is my time. This is my moment. Tomorrow. Ain't no such thing as tomorrow. We only got today. It's your dream. If you wanted to have it, get your butt up and make it happen. If you wanted to have it, rise and grind.
You still got work to do. Stay on that basketball court. Stay on that football field. It's grind season, homie.